Zola Levitt Presents with Dr. Jeffrey Seif and Sandra Levitt. She shall be called woman.
I came forth from a man.
But I found favor with him.
And
now
true success is not measured in wealth and power, but in the estate of one's heart.
I've never been happier and more fulfilled.
I raised him up strictly in the faith,
and
the
more.
law, and the prophets.
And now I want to give something back.
I believe Elohim meant it to be this way.
She's still a cornerstone of wisdom to the family.
But you
And as
are
I see
always in my heart.
The trading has become profitable, and the harvest has yielded good crop. All of this will surely benefit my family. I wouldn't have been able to take on these extra tasks without the love and support of my husband. He has given me everything I've needed and more, and now I want to give something back. It feels so good to be needed, to know my contributions matter. As busy as I am, I've never been happier and more fulfilled. My workers have done well and are worth their hire and more. As I have been blessed with increase, so I would like to bless them as well.
A hearty shalom to all of you. Jeffrey Seif here with my friend Sandra Levitt.
Shalom. Welcome back to the Women's Series. This is one of my favorite women, the Proverbs 31 woman. One of my favorites.
She's a competent sort, too, is she not?
She really is, and I love the drama showing the woman working and doing things and being not idle, being productive. It's a wonderful blueprint for women.
She's entrepreneurial,
Right.
she's engaged, she's proactive.
Her children love her, her husband praises her. She is an ideal woman. It's wonderful. Your teaching on it is terrific.
You're kind. A great model this woman is, correct?
She really is. Let's go and watch Jeff as he teaches on the Proverbs 31 woman.
In the modern world, men leave home to go attend to life. But 'twas not the case in the ancient world, when so much of life centered around the home. In the modern world, the children go off and learn about life in school, and the men go off and attend to life at work. But in the ancient world, the home was the center of education, the home was the center of where the man worked, and the woman was the head of the home. What a home this was in ancient Israel. Many attended to agricultural concerns. But in conjunction with that, this woman has a small business going. She's a haberdasher, a seller of fine clothing. Goodness, when I think of what's involved in the manufacture of the clothing, to come up with the dyes and then to spin the fabrics and then to cut them and tailor them into clothing, it's quite an operation she's got going. In Proverbs chapter 31, the author there says, a good woman is worth more than money, in part because she makes money. She doesn't just make money, she makes life. She's the lamp of the family, if you will, because so much revolves around her. The vision in ancient Israel for a woman wasn't to be some love slave, simply to satisfy the pleasures of the males of the species, who after finishing with her just goes on in life and finds other conquests. No, the vision was that the woman would be so central in the success of life, success for the males of the species. This is evidenced in part by the testimony of someone who didn't do so good, to tell you the truth. Shlomo, Melech Israel, Solomon, the king of Israel, began his life seeking God and getting wisdom, and he ended his life returning to God. But his mind left him somewhere in the middle at one level. Here we have some closing comments in Proverbs, which is a testimony to the wisdom that he'd accrued over time, and starts off, Devrei Lemuel Melech, the words of Lemuel the king. Now, there was no king in ancient Israel by that name. Here, arguably, it's another name for Shlomo, for Solomon. Lem means toward. El, as a suffix, means God. The words of a king who's inclining himself toward God. Solomon began like this and he ended like this. Here he harks back to something his mother taught him. I say that because the verse goes on, Masor asher yisarto imo, the burden that his mother carried. This isn't just his own wisdom, but he's parroting that which his mother gave to him. And what did she tell him? Al titain lanoshim cheleka. Don't give your strength to women. The issue here isn't to love a woman, but rather don't go after loose women. Don't go after loose living. Find a good woman, find a good wife, because she'll do you good all the days of your life. We'll attend to the story as we continue. Different men define success differently. Some believe that life is about the acquisition of toys. There's an old saying that the only difference between men and boys is the price of their toys. And that means acquiring material goods. That means acquiring women. But some come to terms with the fact that there's no way to be successful in life if you don't have a successor. And when value is placed on successors, then value is refocused on the home. And then when value is focused on this home, there's no way to come to terms with it without realizing the inestimable value of a woman. I believe that Solomon came to terms with this. In fact, he is on record at the end of his life. You know his story. He squandered so much of his life pursuing women and this and that, but eventually he sobers up. Proverbs 31 is a testimony to his sobriety as he, from his wisdom, shares the essence of success in life in a certain respect for a male. And in the process of so doing, he then extols the virtue of a woman. In Proverbs 31, we come upon an acrostic testament. It's a poem to that effect, and I want to share some of it with you. Beginning in verse 10, he says in Hebrew, Eshet chayil miyimtso, a woman of value or a woman of virtue, who can find? It's not that she was nowhere to be found as much as it is that he was saying, gentlemen, what you need to do is find someone just like this. And he talks about the character that she possesses. Various characteristics then unfold in the literature. Text says that she's worth more to him than rubies. And that's true in part because what she's going to do is she's going to bring wealth into the house. She doesn't just spend it. She is valuable, she's a worker, she's entrepreneurial, and she contributes to the war effort that way and in so many other ones. Verse 11, we're told that the heart of her husband trusts in her and that she will have no lack of gain. I love the word for gain here in part because it's the same word that's used in the Hebrew Bible for plunder. What do I mean by that? In Old Testament times, Israelite males would be called upon to don helmet and sword and shield and defend home and hearth. They'd go off to war. And in the process of so doing, by virtue of their being successful, they would acquire goods. They would come upon resources that were not their own, but were deemed the spoils of war. When the text here says that she will bring gain to him, it means she brings spoils of war. That is, that she brings into the family system to the man that which he is unable to get himself. He didn't earn it himself, but it just comes at the testimony to what she's all about. Well, we go on in verse 16, we're told that she considers a field and buys it. And this gives rise to the fact that this woman is a woman who is empowered to make decisions. She has chocham, she has smarts. She's not just the love slave. She doesn't just sheepishly and docilely follow the orders that her husband barks out, but she's a woman of means. She's a woman of understanding, and she's empowered within the family in order to make family decisions. And so she invests her energies, and she brings wealth into the family. And not only that, in verse 20, we're told that she extends herself to the poor, that she's just not all about herself. She's successful, she acquires, and thus she has resource to help those less fortunate than her. It says elsewhere that she looks at the time to come without fear. It's because of who she is and how she takes care of her business. She has stability and security and is able to then to be more kindly disposed toward others. We're told in verse 23 that her husband is noted in the gate. The gate, of course, is where the men would meet, the elders. And the reason why he's noticed, according to Rashi, Rav Shmuel Yitzchak, 1040 to 1105 AD, was a famous Jewish sage. And he opined that the reason why he was known in the gates is because he was so well dressed. And the reason why he was so well dressed is because his wife took care of him so well. Again, you have a good wife here, and she takes care of you. You know, some have mistakenly said that a dog is a man's best friend. I think not. If a man will treat a woman right, a woman will be loyal to a man. And here this man stands out by virtue of her attentions. Well, the text goes on, and it closes on a beautiful note. In verse 30, Sheker hachen vehavel hayofi. Charm is deceitful, and beauty is vain. Isho yirat Adonai hitit halal. But a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. She respects the Lord. She reverences him. She walks under his guidance and care, and by virtue of so doing, this is a woman of great value. And I love the way the text closes. He says in verse 31, Tnulo mipri yodecha. Give her the fruit of her hands. Hey, listen, we do well to find a woman like this and give her the credit she deserves, because a woman like this moves the world and helps a man to be successful in this life. My wife Patty and I have teenage boys, and we're hoping and praying that they find a woman just like this.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I have a son also, not married yet, but it is my prayer, and I've told him every day. I've prayed for his wife every single day, and these are some of the attributes that I would love for him to find in a wife.
What characteristics are particularly important to you?
This is really funny. I love Proverbs 31:30. Favor is deceitful, and beauty is vain, but a woman that feareth the Lord, she shall be praised. That she's praised by her family, that she's praised by her children. I think there is no higher compliment.
Do you think that women can be over-invested in beauty?
I do. I really do. I think the beauty should be on the inside.
I mean, that is something. It creates that initial attraction and interest, but at the end of the day, that doesn't hold.
No, it doesn't. You take the makeup off at night, and then who's left is who's left. So you want your insides to be as pretty as the outside.
Right, and there's some activity in this text that really betrays a good insight.
But she works.
Inside.
She works. She's not idle. She makes a scarlet ribbon and threads for her children, so when it snows, that they can find them. She thinks all the time, not stupid, very bright, very industrious. She makes clothes. She buys a field and sells it.
Do you think women are held back sometimes from being able to be engaged like this to attend to this business for the family?
I don't. I really don't. I think God uses everything and everyone. I don't think women are held back. I really don't. I think we have our positions, and I think that's where we're supposed to be.
Do we hold ourselves back sometimes thinking that we just need to be nice and sweet and polite?
Yes.
This woman here is that, but she's more than that.
She gives to the needy. She makes sure they're taken care of. But she has to be pretty sharp to buy a field and sell it. Right. So she's not somebody that you're going to roll over on.
Now, the image of this competent, engaged woman really resonates with you, doesn't it? Why?
Because it's a positive. It's not a negative. And I think in a world when I was raised in the 60s. And it was a time of feminism. It was a time that women were degraded, I felt like, never really uplifted. And this really, if we go back to the word, women are lifted up. This is a wonderful picture of a woman. It's not something to be ashamed of, to be at home or to be smart or to be industrious. It's nothing to be ashamed of, and yet the message that I think we've gotten for so long from these feminists is that we are to be ashamed.
Yes. Now, there's an interview coming up with a woman who's a Proverbs 31 motherly sort who's really engaged in the home, correct?
She is, and it was fun because we got to cook. Yeah. We got to cook. We got to make
soup. Fun for you. I was a little uncomfortable
It was funny. It was funny, but we got to make soup. And Margot was kind enough, Jeff, to have us into her home. She showed us how to make the soup. I think you'll enjoy watching this. Shalom. Jeff and I are in Jerusalem. We're with Margaret, a fabulous cook, her granddaughter Sarah, and we're going to cook what today?
We're going to cook a holiday vegetarian soup.
Wow.
What makes it a holiday is not vegetarian, but we're including matzo balls.
Whoa, I love to know how to cook matzo balls.
Friday nights,
yes.
That's what we serve.
Oh, I love it. Show us how to do it.
Okay. We have here a sweet potato that gives it a sweetish taste. And Jeff, if you would cut this up in small pieces as you can.
You're the boss.
Okay.
This is new for Jeff. Jeff doesn't normally cook.
All right. Very nice. Here, this has to be well beaten.
Right.
And then it will be set to rest.
Okay, so this is a packaged matzo.
This is packaged. This is modern.
Modern, absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
And what it needs to do is the matzo meal needs to absorb the egg, and then at the beginning it is very soupy, but then it begins to thicken, and when it's nice and thick, that's when we form the balls and put it into the...
And so we're actually going to form matzo balls ourselves.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
Okay, we'll set this aside to rest,
Okay, now
and we'll
chop some more.
We'll chop some more. Jeff, you now can cut these up. Just do me a favor. Cut the tips off to throw away and then slice them across.
You're
okay?
the boss.
Okay.
Patty's going to like this.
She doesn't watch the program. Dangerous
Sarah,
if she
you're
hears
doing
too
a
much of
beautiful job there.
She's doing a
And
great job.
Sandra is going
Okay.
to cut leeks.
We'll cut leeks.
Oh, about a finger thick.
Okay, not a problem.
Okay. And we're going to just cut this. And you have to know that this is a soup that is wonderful because it's very rich in vitamins. All the vitamins go in it. There are no frozen anythings in it.
It's fresh and
Yeah, and one of the things we pride ourselves in Israel are our fruits and vegetables,
They
and
are
here are
wonderful.
the examples.
they're wonderful.
Right, and they give very good flavor.
The miracle of Israel is taking the desert and making it into a garden, hence the growth of these beautiful fruits of the earth.
True, we are very proud of it. Jeff, can you move that over just a little bit?
I can do whatever you tell me.
Yeah, just here. I'd like you to cut, because the ingredients that go in are, we have leek here, we've got the carrots we talked about, the sweet potatoes, a little zucchini for the green, and the pumpkin. We have dill, here is the dill, and parsley. We're going to put the parsley in as is, okay? I do not...
You don't cut it up or anything? You just put the whole
No,
thing in?
because
Wow.
eventually I lift it out
Oh, okay.
as like that, and the same goes with the dill. We will be putting that into the soup, okay?
We've got some carrots here.
And we have one onion that we will cut up quickly. And then all of this goes into a boiling pot of water. And I'm going to give a look here. Oh, it's coming along.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Well, it does. It's like magic, isn't it?
What?
It's almost like magic. It
It just thickens, yes.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go over to the stove and put this into our boiling water while you wipe your tears.
Yes, that's right.
Okay?
All right. Looks good.
Here we go. And now you can see that the matzo meal has absorbed
yeah,
all the liquid.
it's all set.
And we're now going to make the matzo balls. First of all, they get very sticky, so everyone has to put their hands into a bowl of water.
Yeah, okay.
Okay?
I've really never done this before.
Yes? Okay.
After you, ma'am.
It's a good experience.
Yes, it is.
Wonderful.
All
It's
right.
a magic of cooking, really.
Oh.
Then
Okay.
everybody takes a teaspoon of this.
Okay.
Okay, Jeff?
Ma'am.
And Sarah gets also a teaspoon.
Yeah.
Okay,
We're
and then
gonna
make
roll
nice
this
round
around.
little balls.
Okay.
And we're
so
going to
does-
put them
does-
on a plate that has been wet with water
Okay.
so they don't stick. As I said, it gets very sticky. And Jeff gets more.
Come in, I'll do it.
You did a good job there.
It's
Look
all,
at
it's
that.
all in the
Yes.
wrist.
It's all in the wrist.
Just keep wetting your hands
Yeah.
so they stay nice and wet. Otherwise, it really is not very pleasant. Okay.
That's it. We're
Now we
done.
take this to the soup.
Great.
And we're going to float them into the soup, okay? And now they are going right in here. And that's nice and bubbly. And that's it, our vegetable holiday soup.
Terrific. That was Margot. We're in Israel making soup, cooking, Her granddaughter is with us. It was a wonderful experience to see a home and to see the lady taking care of her family.
Yes, and I only hope my wife doesn't watch it to see me working in the kitchen.
Cutting those carrots, that was really a hard thing for you to do.
She might get the wrong idea.
No, Margot was lovely. And I like that Margot was conscious of what she was putting in the soup. Not expensive, but by the time she got through with it all, it was a delicious, we tasted it. It was really good.
It reminded me how attending to a home is like running a small business.
Absolutely.
You know, a lot of guys lose sight of that, to tell you the truth, and don't appreciate all that a woman does to tend to the home, the food, the children. It's really quite a lot.
We sat and we chopped, and I was thinking as we're doing this is just a carrot, this is just leeks, this is just this. But when she got all through with it, it was just very, very good.
Right, the combination of elements, really was very, very tasty.
But it takes some thinking to do that. It's not something that just happens overnight. So I think she was a really good example of a home manager.
Yes, and of course, Proverbs 31, she cooks, she works, she manages people, she manages assets, quite an industrious woman.
Well, you know, the interesting thing, when we're in Israel on Shabbat, Proverbs 31 woman is something that's read on Shabbat. The husbands read it to the wives in honor of them.
Yes.
And I think that's so sweet.
And in honor of the wives, speaking to the husbands, let me just say, I believe we would do well to let the women be this way, to encourage our wife, to let her go, to let her loose. We'll only benefit, correct?
Absolutely. How creative can women be when you give them the parameters? Terrific. We'll be back after this.
Sometimes the journey to Jerusalem can be a long one. Abraham journeyed for 62 years from Ur, and then offered his son Isaac as a sacrifice to God atop of Mount Moriah. The Ark of the Covenant journeyed for 500 years until it found its final resting place in King Solomon's temple, atop the very same mount. Our journey to Jerusalem is only complete when we can finally cast our eyes upon God's holy mountain. This will be a journey you will never forget. When your feet touch this holy ground, you will know what I mean.
For your free brochure on our next tour to Israel, call 1-800-WONDERS. Well, there's Zola on the holy days, and here's Sandra and I talking about holy matrimony and looking at a characteristic of a woman at work. I want to make one point here before we give a wrap on this, and that is that I believe that we males of the species would do well to give our wives certain control and power to be able to work, to be able to perform. This woman, this Proverbs 31 woman, had a man who was confident enough to let her go and not feel offended or intimidated by that. And I believe it's a sign of strength in the male, that the male can let the woman be free to serve like this.
But the Bible also tells us that she will do him good and not evil all the days of their lives. So she was a partner with him. And I think we've seen in Eve, we've seen what a wife is. We've seen in Hannah a mother, a nurturing mother. And that's what I'm liking with these women. They're characteristic. You know, this Proverbs 31 woman isn't just about women. It's about being foolish or being wise. That applies to all of us. I really think that.
Yes, it seems to me that we do well to have focus and engagement, and this contributes to her being wise.
Right.
Folly then is turned inward, but this woman is wise because she's engaged in life, not just feeling.
But life in the Lord.
Right.
Not just an idle life, but a really well thought out life in the Lord. And I think that's the biggest encouragement for me, is that she really loves the Lord.
There's the old expression, idle hands are the devil's workshop. She who is self-indulgent is dead even while she lives. We do well to be outside of ourselves in the real world like this woman.
And it keeps us grounded. This is the other thing. I think this woman really will keep us grounded as people in the Lord if we stay with Him and in the Lord. So I appreciate you watching. Please stay tuned. We're going to have some interesting women coming up. And as you go, Sha'alu Shalom Yerushalayim, pray for the peace of Jerusalem.
The Levitt Letter. This free publication includes Bible lessons, insightful news commentary, Hebrew lessons, and more. Call 1-800-WONDERS. That's 1-800-966-3377. Or write to Zola, Box 12268, Dallas, Texas 75225. You can also see our Levitt Letter, TV programs, and national airing schedules at www.levitt.com. Please remember, Zola Levitt Ministries depends on tax-deductible donations from viewers like you.
This has been a paid program brought to you by Zola Levitt Ministries.